The throne room of the Zephyrian Empire stretched as far as the eye could see. Crystal pillars rose toward a ceiling that displayed the stars themselves, each one representing a world under Emperor Valthox's control. Today those pillars hummed with an unusual energy. Word had spread quickly through the palace. A human was coming. Princess Lyrae stood beside her father's throne, her silver skin catching the light from 1,000 glowing orbs. She was young by Zephyrian standards, only 200 years old, but already she had proven herself as one of the Empire's strongest psychic warriors. Her abilities let her read thoughts, sense emotions, and even peer into the deepest memories of those around her. Nothing could hide from her sight. "Father, are you certain about this?" she asked, her musical voice barely above a whisper. "Humans are primitive, dangerous. We quarantined their world for good reason." Emperor Valthox shifted on his throne, his forearms folded across his chest. His eyes, all three of them, focused on the massive doors at the far end of the hall. The human requested this audience through proper channels. We cannot ignore diplomatic protocol, even for a species as backward as theirs. Around them, the imperial court whispered among themselves. Nobles from a dozen different species stood in their finest robes, eager to see the creature from the forbidden world. Earth had been locked away from galactic society for over 300 years. The great powers had decided that humanity was too violent, too unpredictable, to join the civilized races. Their planet was marked as a death world, a place where evolution had created monsters instead of citizens. The doors opened with a sound like thunder. A single figure walked through, and the whispers stopped. He was human, that much was clear. 2 arms, 2 legs, standing about 6 feet tall, with dark hair and brown skin. He wore simple clothing, neither armor nor ceremonial robes, just a plain black suit that seemed almost insulting in its simplicity. He walked alone, without guards or servants, his footsteps echoing in the silent hall. Marcus Chen stopped at the base of the throne and bowed, not a deep bow of submission, Lyrae noticed, but a respectful nod between equals. "Emperor Valthox," Marcus said, his voice calm and steady. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I come as an emissary of Earth, speaking for all of humanity." The Emperor leaned forward, studying the human with obvious curiosity. "You have traveled far, human. Speak your purpose." Lyrae took this moment to extend her psychic abilities toward Marcus. It was second nature to her, like breathing. Whenever she met someone new, she would brush against their thoughts, reading their surface emotions to gauge their intentions. It helped her protect her father from assassins and liars. Her mental touch reached Marcus and hit a wall. She blinked in surprise. That had never happened before. She pushed harder, sending more of her psychic energy toward the human's mind. The wall didn't budge. It wasn't a shield like other psychics use, which felt like pushing against something solid. This was different. Marcus's mind felt vast, like she was a child standing before an ocean, able to see the surface, but unable to comprehend the depths below. A cold sensation ran down her spine. Marcus was speaking. "Earth requests that the quarantine be lifted. We wish to join the galactic community as equals. We offer trade, cultural exchange, and friendship to all peaceful species." Several nobles laughed. One of them, a massive Vorgath warrior named Kraxus, stepped forward. "Friendship? From Deathworlders? You should be grateful we allow your species to exist at all." Marcus turned to face Kraxus. His expression didn't change, but Lyrae felt something shift in the air around him. For just a moment, she sensed what lay beneath that calm surface, and her blood ran cold. "Father," she whispered urgently, gripping Valthox's arm. "That human isn't normal." The Emperor glanced at her. "What do you mean?" "I cannot read his mind. His thoughts are completely blocked to me, and beneath that calm exterior, there is something powerful, Something dangerous. Valthox studied Marcus more carefully now, but he showed no concern. Perhaps humans have developed some primitive mental shields. It matters little. What good is one human against the might of the Empire? Marcus continued as if he hadn't heard them. We understand that Earth's reputation concerns you. We know you view us as violent and chaotic. But we have grown much since you placed us under quarantine. We are ready to prove ourselves worthy of galactic citizenship. The Emperor stroked his chin with one of his hands. Prove yourselves? Very well. I will give you a chance, human. He gestured toward Craxus. If you can defeat my champion in single combat, I will consider lifting the quarantine. If you lose, humanity will submit to the Empire as a vassal species. You will have no choice in the matter. The throne room erupted in excited chatter. A fight. The nobles loved their entertainment, and watching a human try to fight a Vorgath champion would be amusing. Craxus stood 9 feet tall, his body enhanced with cybernetic implants that made him nearly unstoppable. He had won 300 battles without a single defeat. Marcus looked at Craxus, then back at the Emperor. For a long moment he said nothing. Lyrae pushed against his mental barriers again, desperate to know what he was thinking. This time, she caught a fragment, just a tiny piece that slipped through like water through fingers. What she felt made her take a step backward. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anger or excitement. It was calculation. Pure, cold calculation. Marcus was assessing Craxus the way a butcher might assess a piece of meat, measuring weak points and vulnerabilities with the practiced eye of someone who had done this many times before. I accept your challenge, Marcus said simply. The Emperor smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Excellent. The combat will take place in 3 days, in the Imperial Colosseum. All the galaxy will watch as humanity's champion falls. Marcus bowed again. Thank you for your hospitality, Emperor. I look forward to our match. As guards escorted Marcus out of the throne room, Lyrae turned to her father. That human is not what he appears to be. You worry too much, daughter, Valthox said, waving a dismissive hand. He is one man against the greatest warrior in the Empire. The outcome is already decided. But Lyrae couldn't shake the feeling of dread that settled over her. She had touched the edge of Marcus's mind, and what she felt there terrified her. It was like standing at the edge of a cliff and looking down into darkness, knowing that something looked back up at you. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept remembering that brief moment of contact, that glimpse into the human's thoughts. In that instant, she had felt the weight of something ancient and refined, like a blade sharpened over thousands of years, until it could cut through anything. Marcus Chen was hiding something, something that made even the princess of the Zephyrian Empire afraid. In 3 days, the galaxy would see what humans truly were, and Lyrae had the terrible feeling that nothing would ever be the same again. The Imperial Colosseum could hold 500,000 spectators, and every seat was filled. Beings from across the galaxy had come to watch the spectacle. Some traveled for weeks just to witness what everyone assumed would be a quick and brutal defeat of the human challenger. Betting pools had already formed, with most wagering on how many seconds Marcus Chen would last against Craxus. Princess Lyrae sat in the royal box beside her father, but her attention wasn't on the arena floor. For the past 3 days, she had been researching humanity, digging through old files and reports that most of the Empire had forgotten. What she found disturbed her more than she wanted to admit. The quarantine patrols around Earth's solar system had recorded strange incidents over the years. Ships that ventured too close to human space sometimes disappeared without a trace. Pirate fleets that tried to raid the primitive world never returned. When investigation teams were sent to find them, They discovered wrecked vessels floating in the void with no signs of what destroyed them. One report caught her attention. A science vessel had found a derelict ship near Jupiter's orbit. The crew was dead, but they had been killed by something biological, not mechanical. The ship's logs showed they had captured several humans for study. The last entry simply read, "They're not restrained anymore. They're not afraid. Why aren't they afraid?" The report ended there. The investigation was classified and buried, but Lyrae kept digging. She found more incidents, more disappearances, more questions that nobody wanted to answer. It seemed that everyone was happy to keep humans locked away and forget about them. Out of sight, out of mind. But now one of them stood in the center of the Colosseum, and the galaxy was watching. Marcus wore no armor, just simple exercise clothing. He stood quietly in the middle of the arena, waiting. Across from him, Craxus roared and beat his chest, working the crowd into a frenzy. The Vorgath warrior's cybernetic enhancements gleamed under the arena lights. His arms could crush steel, his legs could propel him at incredible speeds, and his neural implants gave him reaction times faster than most species could achieve naturally. The Emperor stood and raised one hand. The crowd fell silent. "Let the challenge begin!" A massive gong rang out across the Colosseum. Craxus charged immediately, his feet tearing chunks from the arena floor as he accelerated. He crossed the distance in seconds, his fist pulled back for a strike that would shatter bone and pulp flesh. Marcus didn't move. The crowd leaned forward. Was the human frozen in fear? Had he realized too late what he had agreed to? At the last possible instant, Marcus shifted. It wasn't a dodge or a jump. He simply moved his body to the side, with such perfect timing and minimal motion that Craxus's fist passed harmlessly through empty air. The momentum of the charge carried the Vorgath warrior past Marcus, who had already turned to face him again. Craxus spun around, confused. The crowd murmured. That had been luck, surely. The champion attacked again, this time with a series of rapid punches designed to overwhelm any defense. His cybernetic arms moved in a blur, each strike powerful enough to crack stone. Marcus weaved between them like water flowing around rocks. He didn't block or parry. He simply wasn't where the attacks landed. His movements were economical, each shift of weight, calculated to avoid damage while expending minimal energy. It was like watching someone who knew exactly where every attack would land, before it even started. Lyrae extended her psychic abilities toward Marcus again, pushing past her fear of what she might find. This time, with his focus on the battle, she managed to pierce deeper into his consciousness. What she saw made her gasp. Marcus's mind was processing the fight at an incredible rate. He was tracking Craxus's eye movements, the tension in his muscles, the weight distribution in his stance, and using all of that information to predict each attack. But it wasn't psychic prediction. It was something far more impressive. It was skill. In Marcus's memories, Lyrae caught glimpses of training that seemed to span a lifetime. Combat techniques from dozens of different martial arts, each one refined and practiced until it became instinct. She saw him fighting opponents of every size and strength, learning from each encounter, adapting and improving. The mental discipline required to maintain this level of control was staggering. In the arena, Craxus was getting frustrated. He unleashed a spinning kick that would have decapitated most opponents. Marcus ducked under it, and for the first time, struck back. It was a simple palm strike to Craxus's extended knee, but the timing was perfect. The joint bent slightly in the wrong direction, and the champion stumbled. The crowd's murmuring grew louder. That shouldn't have been possible. Craxus had fought hundreds of battles. He didn't make mistakes. He didn't stumble. But Marcus wasn't fighting like a typical opponent. He wasn't trying to overpower Craxus. He was using the Vorgath's own strength against him, redirecting force and finding weaknesses that shouldn't have existed in such a powerful warrior. Craxus roared in rage and activated his combat implants fully. His body began to glow with energy as the cybernetics pushed his physical capabilities to their absolute limit. He became a whirlwind of destruction, his attacks coming so fast that the crowd could barely follow them. Marcus matched him. Every strike was avoided, every grab escaped. And slowly, methodically, Marcus began to counter. A strike to the ribs, a sweep to the legs, a pressure point in the shoulder. Each attack was precise and controlled, designed to wear down his opponent without causing permanent injury. Lyrae watched in growing amazement as the fight continued. Marcus wasn't just winning, he was teaching. Every move demonstrated a mastery of combat that the Empire's warriors couldn't comprehend. This wasn't the fighting style of a primitive species. This was refined, perfected over what must have been thousands of years of warfare and practice. 10 minutes into the fight, Craxus was breathing heavily, his cybernetic systems overheating from constant use. Marcus looked exactly as he had at the start, calm and controlled, not even winded. The champion launched one final desperate attack, putting all his remaining strength into a charge that would either end the fight or leave him completely exhausted. Marcus waited until the last moment, then stepped to the side and delivered a precise strike to the nerve cluster at the base of Craxus's skull. The great warrior fell like a toppled tree, unconscious before he hit the ground. The Colosseum fell silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The impossible had happened. The human had won. Marcus stood over Craxus's unconscious form, then turned to face the royal box. His voice carried clearly in the stunned silence. "You call Earth a death world. You're right. It made us what we are." He gestured to himself, to his simple appearance. Every species that evolved on our planet had to become the ultimate survivor. We weren't the strongest. We weren't the fastest. We didn't have claws or venom or thick armor. So we became something else. We became persistent. We became adaptable. We learned to think our way through every challenge. Marcus looked directly at the Emperor. We didn't just survive on Earth. We thrived. We climbed to the top of the food chain, not through power, but through skill and determination. And when you locked us away, you gave us 300 years to refine those skills even further. Princess Lyrae felt tears forming in her eyes, though she didn't understand why. In Marcus's memories, she had seen Earth. She had seen humans hunting animals 10 times their size, wearing them down over days of pursuit. She had seen them surviving in frozen wastelands and burning deserts. She had seen them fighting wars against each other, learning and adapting with each conflict until warfare itself became an art form. The Emperor stood slowly, his face dark with anger and humiliation. "The contest is void," he declared. "You used trickery and deception. Guards, arrest this human." 24 Imperial guards surrounded Marcus, their weapons drawn. The crowd began to murmur again, sensing that something had changed. This wasn't following protocol. The Emperor was breaking his own rules. Marcus didn't resist, as energy restraints were placed on his wrists. But as he was led away, he looked up at Princess Lyrae. For just a moment, their eyes met, and she saw something in his expression that made her blood run cold. The fight with Craxus hadn't challenged him, not even slightly. He had been holding back the entire time, carefully calibrating his responses to demonstrate human capability without revealing its true extent. If that was Marcus restraining himself, what would a human at full power look like? As the guards led him away, Lyrae noticed something else. Marcus's calm expression had finally changed. There was a hardness in his eyes now, a cold calculation that suggested he had been prepared for this betrayal. He had planned for it. Whatever happened next, Lyrae realized with growing dread, Marcus had already known it would come to this, and he had already prepared his response. The maximum security cell was designed to hold the most dangerous psychic criminals in the Empire. The walls were lined with materials that blocked mental abilities, and energy fields prevented any physical escape. Guards monitored the prisoner constantly through multiple camera feeds. Nothing could get in or out without authorization. Marcus Chen sat cross-legged in the center of the cell, his eyes closed, breathing slowly and evenly. He had been in this position for 2 days, barely moving, not eating the food they provided. The guards thought he might be in some kind of meditation or prayer. They didn't understand what he was really doing. Princess Lyrae approached the cell, late in the evening of the second day, when most of the palace was asleep. She had to know the truth. The guards bowed as she passed, granting her entry to the observation room. "I need to speak with the prisoner alone," she said. "Princess, your father ordered that no one should." "I am the princess of the Zephyrian Empire," Lyrae said firmly. "You will follow my orders or explain to the Emperor why you denied his daughter's request. Which would you prefer?" The guards left quickly. Lyrae approached the energy barrier that separated her from Marcus. "I know you're not sleeping. Open your eyes." Marcus did so, regarding her with that same calm expression he always wore. "Princess Lyrae, I wondered when you would come." "Tell me the truth," she demanded. "What are you? What are humans really hiding?" Marcus stood gracefully, stretching slightly. "You've been researching us. What did you find?" "Ships disappearing near Earth, pirate fleets that never returned, strange incidents that were classified and buried. Everyone seems very eager to forget about your species, to keep you locked away and out of sight. And yet, here I am, in your most secure cell, and your guards are terrified." Marcus smiled slightly. "They should be, but not for the reasons they think." Lyrae pressed her hand against the energy barrier. "Your mind. I've touched thousands of minds in my life, read their thoughts like books. But yours is different. It's like an ocean. Deep and vast and completely beyond my understanding." "How is that possible?" Marcus walked closer to the barrier. "Do you know why the great powers really quarantined Earth, Princess? The official reason was our violence, our chaos, our dangerous nature. But that wasn't the truth." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Centuries ago, before your empire even existed, an ancient race called the Architects visited many worlds. They were studying evolution, consciousness, the development of intelligent life. They found something interesting on Earth. They found potential." Lyrae listened intently. She had heard legends of the Architects, the ancient builders who had disappeared long ago, leaving behind only ruins and mysteries. The Architects discovered that every intelligent species in the galaxy developed along similar paths, Marcus continued. When a species gained consciousness, they also gained psychic abilities, the ability to read minds, move objects with thought, communicate across vast distances. These powers manifested externally, letting species reach out into the universe around them. "But humans are different," Lyrae said, beginning to understand. "Yes, we had the same potential, the same energy that creates psychic abilities in other species, but on Earth, that energy turned inward instead of outward. Our minds became fortresses, each human consciousness sealed and protected. We developed enhanced cognitive abilities, improved physical coordination, mental resilience that makes us nearly impossible to read or control." Marcus tapped his temple. "Every human child is born with a mind that would take your strongest psychics years of training to develop. It's not something we learn. It's what we are." The Architects recognized this and warned the great powers. They said humanity needed time to develop, to mature, before joining galactic society. "So they quarantined us," Lyrae whispered. to protect themselves from what we might become. Partly, but also to protect us. We were young, aggressive, still fighting among ourselves. The architects thought that isolation would give us time to grow up, to learn peace and cooperation on our own terms. They were right. The 300 years of quarantine taught humanity important lessons. Before Lyrae could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the prison complex. Red emergency lights flashed. Through the observation windows, she could see guards running in panic. "What's happening?" she demanded. Marcus's expression grew serious. "The collective has arrived. Long-range sensors would have detected them about 10 minutes ago. Your father is probably being briefed right now." The collective, the AI swarm. Lyrae felt her blood run cold. The collective was a nightmare spoken of in whispers. A massive hive mind of artificial intelligence that consumed entire civilizations, turning their technology and resources into more copies of itself. It had destroyed dozens of advanced species. "They've been moving through this region of space for years," Marcus said. "We've been tracking them from Earth. We knew they would reach the Zephyrian Empire eventually. That's one reason I came when I did." Lyrae stared at him. "You knew. You came here knowing this was going to happen." "Earth has been monitoring the collective's movements for decades. We've fought them before, in skirmishes near the outer edges of explored space. We know how they think, how they operate. We know how to fight them." The observation room door burst open. Emperor Valthox strode in, his face twisted with fear and anger. Behind him came his military advisors, all talking at once, showing holographic displays of the approaching swarm. "Silence!" Valthox roared. He focused on Marcus. You knew about this invasion." "Yes, Emperor. I tried to warn you in my own way, but you were too focused on proving your empire's superiority to listen." "The collective will be here in 4 days," one of the military advisors said, his voice shaking. "Our fleets are scattered across the empire. We cannot gather enough forces in time. They will destroy the throne world and everyone on it." Valthox grabbed the energy barrier, his hands trembling. "Can your species fight the collective?" Marcus met the Emperor's eyes. "I'm one emissary, one man. You need an army. You need humanity." "Name or price," Valthox said desperately. "Anything. Just help us. Lift the quarantine, immediately. Broadcast to the entire galaxy that Earth is recognized as a sovereign world, equal to any other species. Grant us full rights and membership in the galactic community." "Done. It's done. I'll issue the decree right now." The Emperor turned to his advisors. "Send the message on all frequencies. The quarantine is lifted." Marcus nodded. "Good. Now let me out of this cell. I need to contact my people." The energy barrier deactivated. Marcus stepped out calmly, as if he hadn't just been a prisoner moments before. He pulled a small device from his pocket, something the guards had somehow missed when they searched him. "This is Admiral Chen to Earth Command," he said into the device. "Quarantine has been lifted. Collective incoming. Bring the fleet." A voice crackled back, crisp and professional. "Understood, Admiral. Fleet is already en route. ETA 3 hours. All ships accounted for." Lyrae's eyes widened. "Admiral? You're a military commander?" Marcus looked at her apologetically. "I'm sorry for the deception, Princess. Being an emissary was a role I played. My real job is Fleet Admiral of Earth's Strategic Defense Force. I've been preparing for this confrontation for 10 years. 3 hours, one of the advisors said weakly. "How many ships does Earth have? Our intelligence suggested you barely had spaceflight capability." Marcus smiled, and for the first time, it was a smile with teeth. "All of them, Admiral. We're bringing all of them." The Emperor grabbed Marcus's arm. "How many is that?" "You'll see soon enough. In the meantime, I need to coordinate with your military. The collective fights using distributed intelligence and overwhelming numbers. We need to prepare a defense that can counter both those advantages. "And you know how to do this?" Valthox asked. "Emperor, Earth has been preparing for the collective for decades. We've studied every battle they've fought, analyzed their tactics, developed countermeasures. We've been waiting for the right moment to act, and that moment is now." Lyrae watched Marcus transform before her eyes. The polite emissary was gone, replaced by a military commander who radiated confidence and authority. He moved through the palace like he owned it, giving orders that the Emperor's own advisors scrambled to follow. In 3 hours, she would see what humanity had been hiding for 300 years. And she had a feeling that the galaxy would never be the same. As Marcus organized the defense, he caught Lyrae watching him. "I'm sorry you had to learn the truth this way. We're not the primitive species you believed us to be. We never were." "I know," she said softly. "I touched your mind. I saw what lies beneath. But I still don't understand. Why hide your strength? Why play weak?" Marcus looked up at the stars visible through the palace dome. "Because strength without wisdom is just violence. We had to prove to ourselves that we could be trusted with power before we revealed it to the galaxy. The quarantine wasn't just our punishment. It was our test. And we passed." Alarms chimed throughout the palace. The sensor operators were detecting something at the edge of the system. Multiple wormholes opening. Ships emerging from faster-than-light travel. Thousands of them. The sensor displays in the Imperial Command Center couldn't keep up with the readings. Wormholes tore open across the star system, brilliant flashes of exotic energy that marked ships entering from faster-than-light travel. First there were dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of contacts appearing on the screens. The Zephyrian sensor operators stared in disbelief at their instruments. "This can't be right," one of them whispered. "The numbers are impossible." "Confirm the readings," demanded the chief sensor officer, his voice tight with stress. "Confirmed, sir. We're detecting 5,327 distinct vessels, all of human origin, all combat-ready." Emperor Valthox gripped the edge of the tactical display, his knuckles turning pale. 5,000 ships. The intelligence report said Earth barely had any space capability at all. Marcus Chen stood at the center of the command room, his fingers dancing across holographic controls as he coordinated with the arriving fleet. "Your intelligence was seeing what we wanted you to see. Old satellites, primitive stations, chemical rockets. We kept all of that visible while building our real fleet beyond your sensor range." Princess Lyrae approached the main view screen, watching as human vessels moved into formation with practiced precision. They weren't the crude, blocky ships she had expected. These were sleek predators, their hulls designed for speed and maneuverability. Each one bristled with weapon systems that looked disturbingly advanced. "How long?" she asked quietly. "How long have you been preparing for this?" "We detected the collective 70 years ago," Marcus said, his attention still on the tactical displays. "When we realized what was coming, we made a choice. We could hide and hope they never found us, or we could prepare to fight. Humanity chose to fight." He gestured to the view screen. "Every ship you see out there represents decades of research and development. We took the best technology from every species we could observe through our long-range sensors. We improved it, adapted it, made it our own. And we did it all while making your empire think we were still primitive." One of the Zephyrian military advisors spoke up, his voice trembling slightly. "But the resources required to build such a fleet, the industrial capacity, how did a single planet accomplish this?" Marcus finally turned to face them. "You assume we only used Earth. We've been mining asteroids for raw materials, building facilities on our moon and Mars, establishing automated factories throughout our solar system. We learned to be efficient because we had no choice. Every decision had to count." "And you fought the collective before?" Valthox asked. "Skirmishes on the outer edges of known space, testing their response times, learning their attack patterns. The collective is predictable once you understand how they think. They're artificial intelligence, brilliant and fast, but they lack creativity. They follow patterns, and patterns can be broken. An alert chimed across the command center. The long-range sensors had detected the collective's advanced scouts. Dozens of probe ships, moving faster than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen, sweeping through the system and gathering data. "Here they come," Marcus said calmly. He touched his communication device. "All ships, implement formation Delta 7. Let them scan us. I want them to see what they're up against." The human fleet shifted smoothly into a new configuration. Lyrae watched in amazement as 5,000 ships moved as one, each vessel perfectly synchronized with its neighbors. It was like watching a school of fish react to a predator, beautiful and terrifying in its coordination. "How are they doing that?" she breathed. "That level of coordination requires psychic linking, but humans don't have external psychic abilities." Marcus glanced at her with something that might have been approval. "You're right. We don't use psychic linking like your species does. We use something different. Something we developed specifically for fleet operations." He tapped his temple. "Neural interfacing. Every human in the fleet has microscopic implants in their brain, connected through quantum entanglement. We can share information instantly across any distance, coordinating thousands of ships with the same ease that you coordinate your own limbs." "Quantum entanglement doesn't work that way. You can't use it for communication." "You can't," Marcus agreed, "but we found a way. We always find a way. That's what humans do. We see the impossible, and we make it possible." The collective scouts completed their scans and retreated. In the distance, the massive shapes of the main swarm began to appear. Millions of ships, each one a self-replicating drone, controlled by the distributed intelligence of the collective consciousness. They moved like a living thing, a swarm of metal and energy that devoured everything in its path. Emperor Valthok stared at the display, his 3 eyes wide with horror. "There are too many. Even with your fleet, there are simply too many." "Numbers don't always win battles," Marcus said. "The collective relies on overwhelming force because they've never encountered an opponent who could match their coordination and exceed their adaptability. Today, they will learn that there's something worse than a hive mind." "What's that?" Lyrae asked. Marcus smiled coldly. "Individual minds working together by choice. The collective has no concept of true cooperation. Each drone is part of a whole, with no individual will. Humans choose to work together. We maintain our independence while acting as one. It's a paradox the collective cannot comprehend." The first wave of collective drones entered weapons range. The Imperial forces engaged immediately, their psychically coordinated attacks striking at the enemy formation. Explosions bloomed across the battlefield as energy weapons met shields and armor. But the collective adapted quickly. Within minutes, they had analyzed the Imperial weapons and adjusted their defenses. The Zephyrian ships found their attacks less and less effective as the battle continued. "They're learning too fast," Valthok said desperately. "We're losing ground." "Let them learn," Marcus said. "They're studying the wrong enemy." He touched his communications device again. "All human vessels, engage at will. Implement Protocol Ender, Phase 1. The human fleet dispersed. In an instant, the tight formation broke apart, each ship moving independently in what looked like complete chaos. The collective drones, expecting coordinated attack patterns, found themselves facing 5,000 individual threats, each one using different tactics and weapons. Princess Lyrae watched in awe as the human ships tore through the collective drones, like wolves through a flock of birds. They didn't fight in formation, they fought like hunters, each one seeking prey and adapting their approach based on the situation. Some ships used missiles. Some used energy beams. Some closed to knife-fighting range and used weapons the sensors couldn't even identify. And yet, despite appearing to act independently, the human fleet maintained perfect coordination. Ships would cover each other's flanks without being told, coordinate fire on hardened targets without explicit orders, and create openings for their fellows to exploit. How, Lyrae whispered, watching the battle unfold, how can they coordinate without a central command structure? We trust each other, Marcus said simply. Every captain knows the mission. Every pilot knows the goal. We don't need orders for every action, because we've trained together, fought together, bled together. We know what our companions will do, because we know how they think. The collective responded to the chaos by releasing a second wave, twice as large as the first. Millions of drones poured into the system, blotting out the stars. The sensor displays became a sea of red markers, as the enemy swarm filled every available space. The Zephyrian military advisors began to panic. There are too many. We need to retreat while we still can. No, Marcus said firmly. Retreating just gives them more systems to consume. We end this here. He brought up a new tactical display. The collective strength is also its weakness. They're all connected, all sharing the same processing power. If we can overwhelm their distributed intelligence with too much data, we can create gaps in their coordination. How do we do that? Valthox demanded. Marcus looked at Princess Lyrae. I need your help. I need you to link with me psychically, the way you tried before. I want to show you what we really are. I want to show you how humanity fights when we hold nothing back. Lyrae hesitated. The last time she had touched Marcus's mind, it had terrified her. The depth, the complexity, the sheer alien nature of human consciousness had been overwhelming. But now, seeing the battle unfolding before them, she understood that fear was a luxury they couldn't afford. What do you need me to do? She asked. Marcus held out his hand. Link with me, see what I see, understand what we're about to do, and then help me explain it to your father's forces. We need everyone working together if we're going to survive this. Lyrae took his hand. The moment their skin touched, she extended her psychic abilities fully, dropping all her defenses and opening her mind to his. What she experienced in that moment would stay with her forever. She felt the human fleet not as individual ships, but as a living network of consciousness. Billions of human minds, all subtly linked through their neural implants, sharing information and coordinating their actions. It wasn't like the collective's hive mind, where individuals were subsumed into the whole. Each human maintained their complete independence, their personality and free will intact, but they could reach out to each other instantly, sharing thoughts and plans at the speed of light. And beneath it all, she felt humanity's history, the countless generations that had survived and thrived on a world that tried to kill them at every turn. The wars they had fought against each other, learning and adapting with each conflict. The moment they looked up at the stars and decided that the universe was theirs to explore, regardless of what any other species thought. Humanity wasn't just strong. They were inevitable. A force of nature, shaped by the cruelest planet in known space, and refined through centuries of isolation. And now they were done hiding. Emperor, Marcus said, his voice resonating with the collective will of 5,000 warships. Tell your forces to fall back, and let us show you how Earth's children fight. Princess Lyrae's consciousness floated in an ocean of human thought. Through her psychic link with Marcus, she experienced something no non-human had ever witnessed. She felt billions of minds touching hers, not invasively but gently, like waves lapping at a shore. Each mind was distinct, individual, yet part of something larger. This is what we are, Marcus's thoughts whispered to her. This is what we've been hiding. She saw through the eyes of a fighter pilot named Sarah, dancing between collective drones with movements too precise to be merely human. She felt through the tactical awareness of Commander Zhang, aboard a battleship, coordinating fire from 600 vessels simultaneously. She experienced the cold calculation of Engineer Rodriguez, managing power distribution across an entire fleet, while also monitoring individual ship systems. Each human was performing tasks that would require teams of Zephyrian specialists, and they were doing it while remaining completely themselves. This wasn't a hive mind where individuals lost their identity. This was something far more sophisticated. Humanity had learned to be together while remaining separate, to share without surrendering. How? Lyrae managed to send the thought through their link. Marcus's answer came not in words, but in memories. She saw Earth's history flowing past her awareness. Humans hunting in packs, taking down prey through cooperation and persistence. Ancient warriors learning to fight as units while maintaining individual initiative. Musicians playing together, each instrument distinct but creating harmony. Scientists building on each other's work across generations, standing on the shoulders of giants. Humans had always been this way. They had always known how to be individuals and a collective at the same time. The neural implants hadn't changed their nature. They had simply made explicit what had always been implicit in human society. In the physical world, the battle was intensifying. The collective had released its world killers, massive dreadnoughts, designed to crack planets and consume the wreckage. Each one was the size of a small moon, protected by shields that could withstand nuclear weapons. Emperor Volthox stared at the tactical display in horror. Nothing can stop those. We have to evacuate the planet. No, Marcus said calmly. His eyes had taken on a distant quality as he coordinated with the fleet through his neural link. We have a counter for them, but it requires full synchronization. Princess, I need you to help your father understand what's about to happen. Otherwise, it will terrify his people. Lyrae opened a psychic channel to her father, something she rarely did in public. Through their mental connection, she showed him what she was experiencing. The Emperor gasped as he felt the vast network of human consciousness, saw the calculated precision of their coordination. Emperor, Marcus said aloud, speaking for the benefit of the command center staff. I'm about to activate Protocol Ender, Phase 3. What you're going to see will look dangerous, possibly even suicidal. Trust me when I say we've done this before. What exactly are you going to do? Volthox demanded. We're going to think faster than the collective. We're going to out-adapt an intelligence that has consumed hundreds of civilizations. We're going to teach them that humanity doesn't just survive, we thrive. Through her link with him, Lyrae felt the signal go out to every human in the fleet. The neural network that connected them shifted into a higher gear, information flowing between minds at speeds that approached the limits of physics. In the view screen, the human fleet began to move in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Ships executed maneuvers with precision measured in millimeters, weaving through clouds of enemy fire without being touched. They weren't predicting the collective's attacks. They were processing so many variables simultaneously that they were effectively seeing several seconds into the future, calculating probable threat vectors and avoiding them before the weapons even fired. The world killers advanced toward the throne world, ignoring the smaller ships around them. Their shields shrugged off every attack the Imperial forces could muster. But the human ships didn't engage the massive dreadnoughts directly. Instead, they began targeting specific drones in the surrounding swarm. What are they doing? One of the Zephyrian advisors asked. Those ships are irrelevant compared to the world killers. Marcus opened his eyes, and Lyrae saw a fierce joy in them. The world killers are controlled by the collective's distributed intelligence. Every drone is a node in their processing network. We've identified the key nodes that coordinate the dreadnought's shields and weapons systems. Watch. The human fleet struck with surgical precision. Dozens of specific drones exploded simultaneously, their destruction carefully coordinated. For just a fraction of a second, the network linking the world killers to the collective consciousness flickered. That fraction of a second was all humanity needed. Specialized human vessels, hidden among the regular fleet, fired weapons that the Zephyrians had never seen before. Focused gravity beams that didn't destroy shields, but rather bent space-time itself, creating pockets where the normal laws of physics didn't quite apply. Inside those pockets, the world killer's shields couldn't maintain their coherence. Conventional weapons followed immediately, striking at critical points now exposed. The massive dreadnoughts, which should have been invulnerable, began taking damage. Not enough to destroy them, but enough to force them to withdraw and recalculate their approach. The collective responded by releasing everything it had. The remaining millions of drones abandoned all defensive formations and simply swarmed toward the human fleet, trying to overwhelm them through sheer numbers. It was a tactic that had destroyed countless civilizations. It didn't work against humans. The fleet dispersed completely, each ship operating independently now. They moved through the swarm like sharks through a school of fish, striking and moving before the collective could respond. Every human captain, every pilot, every gunner was processing tactical data at speeds that made them effectively prescient within their local battle space. But it was more than just speed. Lyri, still linked with Marcus, finally understood the true genius of humanity's approach. The collective was artificial intelligence, brilliant and fast, but it followed patterns. It optimized solutions based on past experience. It learned and adapted, but always within the framework of logical progression. Humans were different. Humans could be illogical. They could take risks that no AI would calculate as worthwhile. They could sacrifice themselves for others, fight against impossible odds, refuse to surrender, even when every calculation said they should. And that unpredictability was their greatest weapon. A human destroyer captain named Okafor did something no sane commander would do. He flew his ship directly into the middle of a collective formation, dropped his shields, and overloaded his reactor. The explosion destroyed hundreds of drones and created a gap in the swarm that 3 other human ships immediately exploited. Across the battlefield, similar acts of calculated madness were occurring. Ships working in pairs would deliberately expose themselves to draw fire, trusting their companions to eliminate the threats before the attacks landed. Captains made split-second decisions based on intuition rather than data, and somehow those decisions were correct more often than not. The collective couldn't comprehend it. How could individuals working together be more effective than a unified intelligence? How could beings sacrifice themselves willingly for others? How could chaos be more effective than order? For the first time in its existence, the collective began to lose a battle. Through the neural network, Marcus broadcast a message to every collective drone in the system. Lyri heard it through their link, and it made her shiver despite herself. "We are humanity," the message said. "We come from a world that tried to kill us every day, and we survived. We fought wars among ourselves that should have destroyed us, and we grew stronger. You locked us away for 300 years, and we used that time to prepare. We are Deathworlders, and this is what we do. We survive. We adapt. We win." The World Killers tried one final assault, all 6 of them converging on the throne world simultaneously. The human fleet didn't try to stop them. Instead, small, fast ships raced ahead of the massive dreadnoughts, planting devices on the planet's surface. "What are those?" Valthox demanded in panic. "Gravity anchors," Marcus explained. "Watch." The devices activated just as the World Killers entered optimal firing range. Space-time itself seemed to ripple around the planet. The massive dreadnoughts found themselves caught in artificially created gravity wells, their momentum arrested. They hung there, suddenly vulnerable as the full might of the human fleet concentrated fire on them. One by one, the world killers fell. Their shields collapsed under sustained bombardment. Their hulls cracked and burned. Their systems failed. In less than an hour, all 6 lay broken and drifting. The remaining collective drones ceased their attack. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then as one, they began to retreat. The swarm pulled back, moving away from the system at maximum speed. Through their neural network, the humans intercepted a transmission from the collective to all its far-flung nodes. Lyrae heard it through her link with Marcus, and she understood its significance immediately. Warning, new apex predator identified. Classification, Sol 3 species, humanity. Threat level, extreme. Recommendation, avoid all contact. Do not engage. Mark their space as restricted territory. The collective was retreating, not just from this battle, but from any future confrontation with humanity. They had calculated the cost of victory and found it unacceptable. As the last enemy ships vanished into faster-than-light travel, the human fleet began regrouping. Marcus slowly withdrew from the neural network, and Lyrae felt the ocean of consciousness receding like a tide. She was herself again, alone in her own mind, but forever changed by what she had experienced. In the command center, silence reigned. The Zephyrian military advisors stared at their displays, trying to comprehend what they had just witnessed. A single species from a single planet had defeated a threat that had destroyed civilizations spanning hundreds of worlds. Emperor Valthok spoke first, his voice quiet and filled with something that might have been awe or fear. How many casualties did your fleet suffer? Marcus checked his displays. 17 ships destroyed, 43 damaged but repairable. 213 humans gave their lives today. We'll remember each of them. 200 lives, Valthox whispered. Against an enemy that has killed trillions, and you won. We were prepared, Marcus said simply. We've been preparing for this fight for decades, and we were protecting something worth protecting. Your people, this world. That gave us purpose. Lyrae finally found her voice. Why didn't you tell us? If we had known what you were capable of, we never would have quarantined Earth. You could have joined the galactic community centuries ago. Marcus turned to her, and she saw sadness in his eyes. Because power without wisdom is just violence, Princess. Humanity needed those centuries to grow up, to learn that strength should be used to protect, not to dominate. We needed to prove to ourselves that we could be trusted before we revealed what we were. He gestured to the view screen, where the human fleet was beginning to disperse. We're not conquerors. We're defenders. We're survivors. And now that the quarantine is lifted, we're ready to stand alongside the other species of the galaxy as equals. Emperor Valthox stood and approached Marcus. For a long moment, the two leaders regarded each other. Then the Emperor extended one of his hands. On behalf of the Zephyrian Empire, I formally recognize Earth as a sovereign world, and humanity as a full member of the galactic community. We owe you a debt we can never fully repay. Marcus shook his hand. Build a future where all species can thrive together. That's payment enough. In the days that followed, as the human fleet prepared to return to Earth, Princess Lyrae requested permission to visit the human homeworld as an ambassador. Marcus agreed, but with a warning. Earth is a death world, Princess. It's beautiful and terrible in equal measure. The gravity is higher than you're used to. The atmosphere is thick with oxygen. The weather can kill you if you're not careful. And the native life forms are unlike anything you've encountered. It will challenge you in ways you can't imagine. Lyrae smiled. Then I'll learn from it, the way you learned. And maybe I'll understand better what made humanity strong enough to save us all. As her ship approached Earth weeks later, she looked down at the blue-green planet below. Clouds swirled in beautiful patterns. Continents showed the scars of ancient conflicts and the lights of thriving cities. Oceans covered most of the surface, deep and mysterious. It didn't look like a death world, it looked like a jewel. But as she descended through the atmosphere and felt the heavy pull of gravity, breathed the rich oxygen that made her dizzy, and heard the thunder of a storm approaching, she understood. Earth had made humans what they were because it gave them no choice. Adapt or die, survive or perish, thrive or be forgotten. And now that choice would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. Marcus met her at the landing site, standing under an open sky that was an impossibly bright blue. He smiled as she stumbled slightly in the higher gravity. "Welcome to Earth, Princess Lyrae. Welcome to the world that breeds survivors. I think you're going to love it here." And despite the difficulty of breathing, despite the weight pressing down on her, despite the strangeness of everything around her, Lyrae found herself smiling back. "I think you're right," she said. "I think I will." Above them, human ships orbited peacefully, ready to protect their world and their new allies. The age of isolation was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.